John Frederick Radio Network, good to have you with us. And let's go to Tina Freitas. Tina, the wife, I have to say this because it is what it is, right? She is the wife of House of Delegates member Nick Freitas, who may be a candidate for Congress in the 7th District, but he says maybe, but probably not, but could be. So we're not sure about that. But this could be the power couple here in Virginia. If Tina wins this seat, she could be a state senator. Nick, her husband, a House of Delegates member, former Green Beret, who also ran against Corey Stewart in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate, coming within a hair of winning. And Tina Freitas, in an announcement and a couple of rallies on Saturday, announcing her candidacy to challenge Republican Senator Emmett Hanger in the Culpeper area for that seat. Hey, Tina, great to have you.
Great to be on. Thank you, John.
All right, so Tina, I've kind of changed my position on this race.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank
you.
So
here's the deal. So when you came on a week ago, I was really skeptical because I'm like, look, the Republicans are trying to keep the Senate. Hanger's going to have to spend a lot of money to stave off your challenge. Maybe you win, maybe not, but he could take that money that he's going to have to spend to beat you, and he could have given it to other Republicans like Wagner or Sturdivant or
well, John, he could still do that.
He's not going to drop. You can't take the position he should drop out. That's not fair. You got to go beat him.
Oh no, I'm not asking that he drop out. I am though asking that he sees that it's time for the next generation to take responsibility for this district. He got into the legislature when I was 4 years old, John. I am a 40-year-old woman. That is a long time, and he's had a good run. And he's a very nice man, and I think that he could very easily retire and use that money that he has in his campaign account to help those other seats. I do think he can do that, and I think he can do that while maintaining, his legacy. I think he would be. I think it's a great idea.
Well, it's not up to you to decide if he's going to retire or not, except if you
Absolutely.
beat him. I mean, so you're taking the position, hey, here I am, Tina Freitas, I'm running for Senate, drop out and retire. I mean, if you want to retire him, beat him. But look, I think calling for, I would love it. I am a fiscal conservative, John. I would love it if we could save his supporters, my supporters, save everyone a lot of money, and well, he
also,
could say the same. Tina, this is what bothers me about what you're saying. He could say the same thing. He could say the same thing I'm saying, which is drop out of the race. I mean, don't challenge him. I mean, he's the incumbent. Wait till he retires, right? I mean, so he could say the same thing. So, look, if you're going to challenge him, challenge him. But let's just own up to the fact that he wants to run for re-election. He's going to have to spend a lot of money to defeat you, even if he does.
Well,
that money could have gone somewhere else.
That decision yet, and there are a lot of folks that he has told even last election cycle that he really did not plan to run again. And so, no, he is tired. I do know that. I spoke with his son outside of the polls 4 years ago, and he said he didn't even, he wanted to retire. He wanted to be done.
You could have waited till he dropped out.
I think he wants to know. I think he really wants to know that his district, the district he loves, will be in steady hands. Will be in good hands. And I aim to convince him that I would be that steady hand. Okay,
so what if he decides to run? What are you going to do? Drop out?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so you're in the race. So this is what's frustrating me. Are you in the race to beat Emmett Hanger and be the Republican nominee or not?
Absolutely, I am. But I also recognize that he has done a lot of work there. He has a legacy that he wants to protect, and I want to allow him the opportunity to retire if he so chooses. Now, if he chooses not to, I mean, because I'm looking at all of the possibilities, John. That's what you do when you go to enter a race. You look at all the possibilities, and that possibility is there mainly because of things that people throughout the district have mentioned about his desire to retire. And I think that maybe the one thing that he's been concerned about is whether or not he will be leaving the district in steady hands. And I aim to show him that I would be. However, if he does decide to continue on, he will have to come face to face with all of his votes.
I don't know. Something about what you're saying doesn't sit well with me, but let's just get off it, okay? Because I'm not going to get.
Okay.
I'm just not going to get beyond it. And so I said my piece. You said yours, and this idea that I'm going to run and then I'm going to make somebody retire, and that's it's let's all play kumbaya. Even if he retired, look, Tina, here's what's bothering me. Right, go out and win the thing. Even if he retires, you're going to get opposition the next day, right? At least one or two people jump in the race in order to beat you for an open seat. So this idea like, I'm the anointed one just doesn't sit with me well, and I can't get past it.
I don't believe in coronations, John.
So then let's get to the race.
This is America. But no, I do have basic respect for someone who has served so much time and has given so much of himself. I do not agree with his voting record, and he will have to come face to face with every single bad vote that he took. And in our district, it's because of the way our district leans, there are many bad votes, and he's going to have to come face to face with them. But I want to give him the opportunity, of course.
We've already been over that.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about that now because we've been over it three times. Can you concede this? If Emmett Hanger, Republican incumbent in your district, decides to run for re-election, can you concede that just concede that your challenge to him is going to make him spend tens of thousands of dollars that could be spent helping another Republican candidate? Can you just concede that?
Absolutely, but there is also no guarantee that he was going to use that money to help any of the other candidates to begin with.
Now we're getting somewhere.
I'm not sure if anybody has VPAP up to see if he's ever donated to some of these other campaigns. But this is not a foregone conclusion that if he was not challenged, he would be using that money to help these other candidates. And so, the problem really lies in my district is not being properly represented, and I really just I want to represent our district the way that we need to be represented. We have certain values in this district. It is a very, very strong conservative district, and we need strong conservative leadership. As we see in other areas, when we don't have strong conservative leadership to offset the left and what they have coming at us, we end up compromising our future away.
So you want to beat him and turn your district into a conservative pro-Trump district that is going to stand with the president.
Is those things, John. That is what my district is, and we are not being represented that way. That is the reason why I'm doing this. Now, I have a lot of respect for the man. I do not like the voting record. And so I am here to say that my district's voice will finally be heard in Richmond.
Here's a question from William in Culpeper. What part of Emmett Hanger's voting record does Tina not agree with?
Boy, where do I start, John? I do not agree with his Medicaid expansion, and of course, you and I disagree on that one. But I feel that it is fiscally irresponsible. And then, on the other side, there is a lot of obviously tax increases. He's voted for the two largest. You and I covered this already. Two largest tax increases in Virginia history. But let me bring up a new one, John. Okay, education. I believe in educational choice. I would love to see dollars follow the student. I want our legislation coming out of Richmond to finally start focusing on the student again and not be focusing on these large lobbyists who can write big checks, because right now the big lobbyist voices are being heard, but the students and the teachers and the parents are not being heard.
How do you stand on Dominion Energy?
What do you mean, how do I stand on Dominion?
Will you take...
You're going to have to be more specific.
Will you take money for them? Are you part of would you join kind of the Democratic Alliance that thinks that they shouldn't be donating to campaigns, and that is opposed to a lot of what they do? I mean, how do you have any particular position on that?
Oh, well, I mean, I believe that we need, I'm sorry. Can you re-ask the question? I'm sorry.
A lot of Democrats in the state Senate are vehemently opposed to the ability for Dominion Energy to donate to campaigns. They are saying that's a conflict of interest. Do you have a position
That's very
on
interesting. Well, okay, here's the problem. When you have big lobbyists donating to campaigns all across the board, on the left and the right, you don't get to cherry pick which one you're going to accept, which one we're going to stop from sending checks and which ones we are. But we need reliable energy. I'm just saying that ratepayers need to be treated fairly, okay? And one of the issues that we have with these big checks from lobbyists coming through is that you just I struggle with the idea that we're going to take money or reject money based on who likes it or who doesn't like it. Here's the point. The point is a representative needs to be a solid voice for their district, no matter who is sending a check, no matter who is opposing you. You need to be able to be unwavering in what you support and what you do not support. You can't be bought off. Mm-hmm. And I think that we do have that as a problem. And so, as far as Dominion goes, do I think we should stop Dominion from donating to campaigns? I think if you stop Dominion from donating to campaigns, you're going to have to stop a lot of other places. Think about Planned Parenthood gave $2 million to Ralph Northam to get him elected. And then they promptly sent $2 million back to Planned Parenthood with Emmett Hanger's vote to flush them back full of cash to probably line the pockets of more politicians. So, if we're going to get into that, and a tit for tat over who's spending where the lobbyist money is going, then we're going to have the complete conversation and not just cherry pick.
That makes sense. Common Sense News Time, 51 past the hour. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We are with Tina Freitas. She has just announced a campaign challenge for state Senate in the Republican primary to longtime incumbent, and you could call a moderate or rhino type liberal Republican Emmett Hanger. When will that be decided by a primary team? I think I already asked you this.
Yes, they did choose a primary. And
what's the date on that?
I think that has a little bit to do with why nobody stepped into the race and why now I'm in the race, is because...
What's the date?
Folks, yeah.
What's the date on that?
June 11th.
June 11th, okay. So you're challenging him on June 11th. So let me just ask you two questions. Number one, so a week ago, Patrick Hope, House of Delegates member, Northern Virginia, talked about invoking impeachment papers for Justin Fairfax. Based on what knowledge you have today, if that came up, is that something that you would be in favor of? Would you be in favor of an impeachment proceeding now or not?
John, we have to stay focused on due process. We wanted it with Kavanaugh. Now we need to get it. It works for both sides. It works all across the board. We have due process for a reason in this country. And I do think it looks very dire. I do think that it looks very bad. But an investigation does need to be done, and due process needs to be had. And so when a crime... innocent until proven guilty, even though this looks terrible. And I'm not saying I think he's innocent. It looks pretty bad. But we have to have due process. If we don't have that and we start chipping away at that, that's going to be used against us one day. And that's where we have a huge disconnect, because we've got folks who are so angry and so ready to impeach and all of that. And if he has committed a crime, he absolutely should be impeached. Absolutely. However, we have to have due process, John. It's part of our system.
So you would not be in favor, it sounds like, of invoking an impeachment proceeding now without further evidence. You would rather wait to see.
Well, we need law enforcement to be able to determine if the law has been broken. And if he is going to be convicted. This is very important, John, because we just simply cannot just go and do this. We have to let the legislature determine if the crime actually has occurred and whether or not it's being convicted. So I think we're putting the cart before the horse here.
So right now, February 18th. 2019, would you call on Justin Fairfax to resign or wait?
Oh, I absolutely think he should resign. Absolutely. I mean, the entire executive right now is a total dumpster fire, John.
Mm-hmm. So even though he hasn't had due process, you think he should resign anyway?
Oh, sure. On his own, yes. The people of Virginia no longer trust him. The people of Virginia no longer trust Ralph Northam. And the people of Virginia no longer trust Mark Herring. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but, each one of them was pointing at the other, telling them to resign as all of these scandals broke. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just insane to me. And then how convenient that when Mark Herring told Ralph Northam to resign over the yearbook photo, now it comes out that he too has a similar situation that he had to fess up to, yet he's not going to do exactly what he told the executive to do. It's a huge hypocritical thing, and I think, yes, absolutely, our executive branch right now, we have zero confidence in their ability to lead. Now, thank God we have the legislature still leading the way.
Well, certainly Herring's situation here is the height of hypocrisy. I mean, you can't even say this with a straight face. I mean, Herring demanding that Northam resign 2 weeks ago on a Saturday when he said he did moonwalk blackface, and then 2 days later he did the same thing, and there's absolute crickets out of the Herring camp. I mean, the guy is just ridiculous. He's done.
Right, and
nobody.
And
this guy is not going to be. He is not going to be governor.
I mean,
he's done. Yeah, he's done. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
The level of Mark Herring's hypocrisy is just beyond the pale. I mean, it's laughable, Tina. All right, let me ask you this.
I think it's hypocrisy across the entire executive. Ralph Northam, Justin Fairfax, and the AG. They're all total hypocrites, and none of us can feel assured that they're going to run the state properly at this point.
Let me just ask you this, and I've only got a minute. So
sure.
You've talked about a lot of the votes that Emmett Hanger had that you opposed. Some of them I was in favor of. Medicaid expansion, the second time around, not the first. The Bob McDonnell tax hike for roads, which is a reality now if you're in the Golden Corridor. So we don't see eye to eye on that. Going forward, what is one vote that you and Emmett Hanger would differ on? 2019 going forward, 2020. Give me a vote or a policy that's different.
One vote that we would differ on is the Hyde Amendment, John. Okay, do you know what the Hyde Amendment is?
Yeah, Henry Hyde, Illinois.
Okay, so here's for those who don't know, the Hyde Amendment is basically a protection so that the money that is sent to Planned Parenthood, which I don't think should be sent anyway because we all know that's a shell game. However, the money that's sent to Planned Parenthood cannot be spent on abortive procedures. Now, we all know they just shuffle money around and they do it anyway. However, Emmett Hanger got up in committee and argued against putting the Hyde Amendment into the budget because he was worried that it would derail Medicaid expansion. He's on video. And now, he's threatening to do it again. And now I'm very concerned about that because that means, well, John, that is 4,000 to 6,000 babies who's every single year. So let's think about that. How many is that? 24,000 babies. So yes, that is a huge vote. That is a huge difference between the two of us. And I think that it's a defining factor in my district.
All right. The last time Emmett Hanger got challenged in a primary in 2015, two candidates ran against him. I can't remember their names. But
it was Van Moxley and Marshall Patty.
Yeah, one guy got like 9% and one guy got like 15%. So Hanger got like 72%. I mean, that's a pretty high percentage. How do you overcome that and win this race?
Well, I think that really it lies in getting the name recognition out there, getting people to look at the vote. The problem with the last time around, it was split. We had, a three-way race. And we had two candidates that kind of focused more on each other than they did on Emmett Hanger's voting record.
All right, but he still got over 70%. You got a long way to go. I do,
but I have some name recognition that folks didn't have.
No, that's true.
The last time.
That's true. Look,
I
respect.
Also plan to run an excellent strategy in ground game. We have a winning strategy. We have crunched these numbers. I am not about symbolic runs. I'm not going to run unless I believe I can win.
I got to roll.
What's your
website?
My website is tina4va.com.
All right, I got to go.